Join Jesus where he's already at work. We dream of the day where every home in America is adopted by one or more persons living the prayer, care, share lifestyle. Our host, Gary Kendall, began Love KC with the desire to see every home in Kansas City prayed for. Join with him to make this happen. Now, on to the Bless Podcast.
Hey, welcome to the Bless Podcast, where we join Jesus where he's already at work, where we live, learn, work, and play. And we're glad you're joining us today, where we talk about how that we can live on mission. And as followers of Jesus, we want to do what he did. And then we want to also lead others to do what he did. I think the greatest definition of a disciple is that they replicate the life of their master. And so as we talk about joining Jesus where he's already at work in the Bless Podcast, what we're trying to do is find examples of people who are doing that. They've said yes to the call of Jesus in their life, and they're following, and then they are also leading others to do the same. And a great example of that is Porsche Seals, who leads Caring for Kids. So welcome, Porsche. We're glad that you're joining today.
Thank you, Gary and Brooke. Thanks for having me today. Yeah, good to be here.
We're looking forward to this. And my co-host is Brooke Powell. And Brooke is a writer for us. She writes blogs and participates on the podcast and also does social media for Love KC. So if you go to Love KC today, that's our social media handle, and you'll find it on Facebook. You can find it on YouTube. It was the only one that we could use Love KC on. So we had to add the word today because we wanted to use Love KC. And so when you're looking for Love KC, just add the word today. Otherwise, you might find something like a dating service or something, and that's not who we are.
A different kind of love. Different
kind of love. Yes, Porsche. You're right. Yes. Well, Porsche, I am so glad that we get to take this time today to talk to you and to have you share with us a little bit about who you are. We'd love to hear about you and your family and just your calling, but also to talk to us about caring for kids, because I know that there's a lot of people who are looking to make a difference with their life. And we talk about a pray, care, share lifestyle. And so they've adopted their neighborhood. Some almost 3,200 people have adopted their neighborhood in Kansas City, which is exciting. So they're praying, maybe they're prayer walking. But in this, when it comes to care, well, some of the lowest hanging fruit, I think, would be to connect to their local grade school. And you guys have that down. So, and you're always needing more people to join the cause. So tell us a little bit, Porsche, about what is Caring for Kids about, and maybe some highlights.
Okay. Well, once again, just want to say thank you for honoring us and having us in this space. So hello to the group that you guys share with, and the Love KC team, and just all of it. So Caring for Kids Network was started 501c3 in 2013. And our vision is to see all children have hope and reach their highest potential. And I think pretty much every adult can agree with that. If you love kids, whether you are a kid at heart or you've got kids running around, or maybe you've got grandkids on your knee, and you might even be privileged to have great grands, you want to see them have hope, and so of course, by faith, we believe that our hope is in Jesus, but we definitely want to provide hope to children, and we do that through a missional cause of mobilizing community organizations in partnership with schools to help them prepare children to impact the world.
That's awesome.
That's so great.
And you do a great job at it.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Before we dive into more nuts and bolts about the Caring for Kids, Porsche, I'd just be curious to hear more about you, your family, your calling.
Sure. So I am a Kansas City native, born, raised, bred in this fine city, a great place to raise kids, I believe. And my husband and I, of almost 18 years, we are so close to our anniversary. It's very exciting. Thank you. Almost 18 years of marital bliss. We have our union, and we have 4 kids, Liana, Aaron, Simone, and Stephen. and they are 17, 16, hair shy of 15, and 10. So if you did the math, yes, I had
lots of energy in your house.
Yeah, we had.
You have your hands full.
Yeah, so first they were all in diapers, and now all the girls were in diapers together, and now the girls are all in high school together. So it's a party all the time. And so, caring for kids started in my home as a stay-at-home mom for 13 years, and came to know the organization, in as a volunteer PTA mom, and love that work. And, like you said, we'll get into that later, but my husband and I, we both serve at Rivers Edge Fellowship here in Raytown, Missouri, where we reside. And I lead worship, and he's the youth pastor. So we are busy in our faith work, love serving God together along with our children. Shout out to my pastor daddy. My dad is my pastor, so I have my pastor daddy, that's what I like to call him. And at Rivers Edge Fellowship, where we've been serving for quite some time now. And God has just blessed us to just be a family, and we get to pray together and serve together, worship together. And so, that's just kind of where it is for us right now.
Yeah, I think your dad's an awesome guy. I really like him.
I agree.
God uses him in some wonderful ways. It's funny, really funny, because I knew both of you, but I didn't realize that you went together. Because
you can be you when you're married, you can kind of roll incognito, because people don't put it together until you tell them, because we don't have the same last name anymore. So you gotta let it ride for a little while. But
that was funny the day I realized. Oh, no wonder, like, you got such a great heritage, and I knew you were great on your own, but I just didn't realize where you came from. So that made sense. Hey, Porsche, I was really impressed last week when I was putting some numbers together for the Barna Forum. I was privileged to be given a chance to set up Jimmy Dodd to talk about caring for kids. Mm-hmm. And so I went in and did some research on your website. Mm-hmm. And I had talked to you before also, trying to prepare for that. But man, it's impressive what you guys are doing. Can you take just a moment for the people who maybe they don't know the numbers? Can you kind of go through those numbers for us? And then I want to hear how COVID affected that. But first, I'd like to just hear, it's so impressive, the reach that you guys have at Caring for Kids.
Well, so right now, we're in 7 school districts in the metropolitan. And we are in, the numbers changing right now. Cheryl is literally, shout out to Cheryl, my assistant. She's working the numbers right now. We're updating those numbers, but right now, the numbers show 89 schools that we're serving in the 7 school districts, and 370 community partners. And that makeup is the faith, business, and civic nonprofit organizations. And we're so glad to say 161 of those partners are churches. Through our process, through our work, we've been able to complete over 3,200 projects to support our principals' goals. And, we'll talk about that a little bit later, and mobilizing over 3,000 volunteers. That's awesome. And even in COVID, indirectly, we've been able to serve over 41,000 students. So,
when you add all of that up, Porsche, that is just so outstanding.
Yeah. So, you were asking, how did COVID affect our work? So COVID changed the game, as they say. We were used to, I was just telling somebody, we had this day where we were in the office, and I was looking at my calendar, and I said, did you guys realize there's a link every time we set up a meeting? Like, we could possibly bring people in virtually to have some of our meetings. And it was a joke. I'm trying to call one of the team members down the way so we can see how it works. And it was like, oh, one day that would be great. And then one day turned into every day.
Yes.
We had to immediately flip every partnership meeting that went from being in a room together, sitting literally round table, to being in a virtual world, having our Brady Bunch squares, as our team likes to call it, and trying to develop and continue to build deep relationship in a moment where we could not sit around the table anymore. So that was the first thing that affected our work. The other thing that affected our work was everyone's uncertainty of their usefulness. Principals were not sure how partners could be mobilized, how partners could be utilized, and partners felt the same challenges. They were asking us, like, how can we help? We can't mentor. We can't come in. We can't, as some of the church ladies couldn't make meals anymore and just drop them off. And our kindness carts. We have some schools where they roll through the hallways with these things they call kindness carts. They have all kinds of snacks and kind words and letters, and they couldn't just knock on a teacher's door and pass out a gift to say, keep going. Here's a soda, to give you a little bit of caffeine to keep you going for the latter half of that day. And we were kind of stopped in our tracks for a second. Trying to figure out, how do we turn everything we know to be normal into this virtual experience and keep the guidelines of every single school district, and every guideline was different. Everybody had different rules. So we had to be very careful to make sure that we were contextual to the school district that we were serving. And serving 7 different school districts, many things were similar, but there were some variables. Some of our school districts allowed virtual mentoring. Some, it wasn't an option. Some would allow partners to send food trucks. Some, it wasn't an option. So we had to go back to the drawing board and just really kind of do, you ever see those puppies where they flip things over with their nose, and just keep turning them over. We had to do that. We had to keep flipping things over and over again until we landed in places that made sense for the environment that we're in right now.
And this was your first year to actually lead.
Yes.
So welcome to 2020, Porsche.
I'm a part of a demographic of leaders that we're a graduating class of our own, leaders that came in during the 2020 school year. We couldn't be green very long. We had to push through. But I believe I'm a better leader for it. So, God knew what he was doing. And if he would have told me that it was coming, obviously, just like most other things in the Bible, you probably wouldn't do it. But, when you get to the Red Sea and it's parted, you just got to walk. Right. So that's just how it's been. And I'm sure we'll, discuss it in the future of this conversation, but we have seen on the other side of the experience some things that will now be a part of what we do on a regular basis, and they have made us stronger as an organization for it.
No, that's
beautiful. I was curious, are you kind of, I don't know if I would say back to normal, but are you able to do things you did before? Are you doing more of a merge? You're doing kind of a combo?
Yes, very much a combo. So one thing we learned is that every meeting will always have a virtual link. Because one of our pastors, he said this and it stuck well with me. He said, now as a world, we are a virtual world with an in-person option instead of an in-person world with the virtual option.
Wow.
And it was such a forward-thinking concept. I just really clung to that because it was the terminology of how I was feeling in my heart, that we would never be the same. So we saw a great growth from attendance with our business leaders and our civic and nonprofit organizations that oftentimes might only make 4 meetings a year because they couldn't get away from the office. But now they could close the office door, come in, have that meeting, and then, go back to business as usual. So we saw great growth in that way. And because of that, we actually engaged close to 30 businesses and close to 30 civic organizations during COVID.
Wow. That's excellent.
Yeah. So, and does this go all the way through high school, or what's the age group of what the kids you care for?
Yeah. So because our 4-step process is contextual, it doesn't matter what grade. So we have preschools, elementary, middle, high school, and even alternative programming. So the process, as long as you work the process, it doesn't really matter what grade level the building goes to. We have some elementaries that go to 6th grade, some that only go to 5th. And like I said, we have preschools, and very contextual, almost like a mini impact around that school for each and every school with that process.
Okay. So Porsche, I'm just curious, like, what is it about caring for kids that just makes your heart soar?
When I read this question, I was just like, I could do this all day. It just makes me like if I was a cartoon character, I'd have like hearts floating around me right now. And as you can see, I'm a bit of a character sometimes. I like to be colorful, and God lets me see things in so much color. So what makes my heart soar, number one for me, is the pathway that we give churches into schools. There's always the separation. We don't have to go into that very deep. There's always a separation, but giving churches that pathway to be the hands and feet, to be the body that God called us to be, it stopped me in my tracks when I was a volunteer, and my church is still involved. We've been involved at our school since 2015. And being able to do that is one of the reasons. And then the other caring organizations that we're able to involve around that just makes it so worth it. I think the other thing is watching those goals be achieved. So the goals are essentially challenges that principals see that are in their school and that they want to flip as goals. So they might say, our attendance is down. So the goal is to raise attendance. Our staff morale is low. So we want to raise staff morale. We want retention. We want to keep our good teachers. And when you see those partners sit around that table and they hear the goal and they think about it, what do I have in my hands? What can I do to make a teacher stay at their school, to make a kid want to learn math? We've been in schools where they paint multiplication on the stairs. So when kids are walking up those stairs, they're doing, 1 times 1, 2 times 2. So that only happens with relationship building. And it starts with that connection that we get to do. And then they do some collaborative work and they get their hands dirty. And then that's when the transformation happens and the relationship is built. And I just kind of feel like once that relationship is built, the community is never the same. Not just the school, but that community is not the same because those pastors know each other, those business leaders know each other. And so, as I said before, it's a loaded question. I could go on and on about caring for kids. I would volunteer for this organization, even though I appreciate getting paid. So, because I just see the stories, Brooke, I see it over and over and over again where hearts are transformed when you see a kid smiling and waving at you when you come down the hallway, or a teacher remembers your name, or they feel appreciated because we had a school where a principal, the teacher came up to them and said, "Why are they doing such nice things for us?" Nobody does nice things for us.
Wow.
That's amazing and so rewarding.
To hear how it changes their hearts, and it helps with purpose, and it helps with, that stick to itness that you need sometimes when you're like, I'm done with this, and we just get to do that every day.
That's so cool. I'm thinking, Portia, as you're talking about the different people in the equation. So obviously kids are getting helped, and but teachers are getting a huge, feeling of being supported. Principals feel like they have advocates. Business leaders feel like they have a way to contribute. Churches feel like that they're doing what churches should do in terms of caring for their community. Right. I mean, it's such a win all the way around.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. And you even hear when those business leaders, they came in for one thing and they get so much more than they bargained for, right. When a program that they have is utilized in a way that they never thought before, and they see impact that they never considered measuring before. So yeah, it's a win-win for all of us. And I think, it's a win-win for our kids and families, because they're not just the future, they're the now. Yeah. So, helping them to be happy and whole is important now for who they are as adults for tomorrow.
I agree, for sure. Every organization has unique kind of challenges, and COVID kind of turned up the volume.
Yeah.
Like there was already dissonance in our culture, and dissonance in our mental health, et cetera, from the challenges that we're facing, from so many different things, whether it's the political, strife, or, some of the strain on racial relationships that we had. This, not just this last year, but it was turned up this last year. And I wonder, what are some of the unique kind of challenges that you guys are facing right now that would help us know how to pray and how to support you?
Yeah. So a couple of things. We're still seeking to engage more partners every single day. We, of course, have the pathway for that, but we want to blow the roof off of that thing. We set a goal. Everybody sets goals, but our goal is 40 churches. But wouldn't it be amazing to say that it was 80? We want to see 30 businesses, but wouldn't it be amazing to say it was 50? So we're desiring to see more partners, of course, and then in this seat, being honest and saying support, right. People that donate to us, or take, organizations that take us on as a missional cause, a local missional cause, to help the work that we do. We don't charge school districts for our services. It's very important that we not do that, so that the worry that they have around programming for other organizations isn't carried over to the work that we're able to do in caring for kids. We want them to have the freedom to know that they can engage our organization and not be concerned about, funding and when and if we would have to leave their school districts.
Yeah, you don't want to do something that might seem like you're competing, for those
right.
dollars.
No. Yeah, we just want to be able to freely support and give our love to our community in a way that with no strings attached, Yeah. And I think finally I would just say just prayer for staying in the game.
Right.
Sometimes we get COVID fatigue right now. But other times it's just the fatigue that you get when you just want it to work, and maybe it's not working the way you'd like, or you have a school that's not doing as well as you would, or that you would hope, or you're hoping for more schools to join the program, the process, and they haven't joined yet. So, the patience and the endurance, the long suffering that it takes to build those deep relationships, because, love is an action, and this is how we're showing our love to the community. And so we've been given a charge of what that should look like. And some of those words are not as easy to do as others. And so oftentimes just that endurance that it takes, and suffering alongside of our brothers and sisters in the community that are doing the work.
Yeah.
That's really good. Go ahead.
It is, Porsche. I can feel that weight. As I think about your answer too, I also know that there's spiritual warfare.
I was going to say
that comes up against what you guys are doing, because the enemy doesn't like what you're doing. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Absolutely. And you're kind of right there on the front line, trying to bring hope, trying to bring the love of Jesus, the life of Jesus into the schools, even if you can't do it, in a direct way. Often, you're creating environments that the love of God can flow, and you're helping schools, you're helping students, you're helping teachers to thrive, those are all kingdom kinds of ventures. Right. So yeah, I'm sure that the enemy doesn't like what you're doing, and that's something else to overcome against all the other things you talked about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One of the things that hit me the other day, Porsche, I don't even know if I remember to tell you this. We've talked several times recently, but as I was working on the plan for 2022 for Love KC, it was really clear to me that if we want to reach a whole city, we need to divide it into districts that are more that better relate to the people in those districts, so that they have something in common. So I began to think about north of the river being its own district. The KC-Mo area between the river and I-70 on the Missouri side. The Raytown, KC-Mo area, Independence, Gladstone, that area. I started calling that region 2. And then south of I-70, where you have Grandview and Lee Summit and Jackson County on the Missouri side. And then on the Kansas side, you have Johnson County. And then you have the Wyandotte County, which, the county line separates that. So you kind of have 5 fairly distinct regions in Kansas City. And so that we need to think at Love KC, how can each region's going to, neighboring is our strategy, but it's going to look and feel different in each one of these regions. And then I began to think, okay, well, how do we break down the regions themselves? And the most obvious distinction to me was divide them up by school districts. So in Kansas City, we have 338 grade school districts, public and private schools in the city. And what if we could plot all of those schools out on a map in each region? And then we would also put the 3,200 lights we have, plot the lights inside of the school districts, and then plot the churches inside of the school districts, and then challenge the lights and the churches to go out and adopt all of the neighborhoods that are associated with the school districts. And I was working on that plan, and have been sharing that plan with our partners and recruiting regional leaders. And I thought, the opportunity here for Love KC to come alongside Caring for Kids is obvious to me. Because there's 3,200 lights in the city, every one of them, we're asking each of them to do a pray, care, share, disciple. So the 4 steps: pray, care, share, disciple, lifestyle. And the caring part, just naturally, leans into, join what Caring for Kids is doing. If Caring for Kids isn't in that school for some reason, then go serve that school in the same way that we would if Caring for Kids was there, So that for 2022, Porsche, as we go into the year, and as we're trying to carry out this plan for Love KC, I just want you to know we want to come alongside you, not asking anything from you necessarily, but finding if there are ways we can partner and say to these lights, hey, let's adopt these schools. Say to these churches, adopt these schools. If we're going to adopt every neighborhood, why not every church in the city? Every school is what I meant to say. 338 schools, we could see them all adopted, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that just really, to me, it was so clear how that that we really want to challenge and invite our lights to come alongside Caring for Kids and come alongside the great schools that are in their area. We have skin in the game in the sense that they're right in our community. They're our kids, even if our kids might not go there. They're our kids from the community. They're neighborhood kids or their grandkids, or we already have a connection. So let's make the most of that.
That's right.
And what would that look like if someone is listening right now and they would be like, this is so cool, I want to get involved? Like, what are the practical opportunities how they could come and serve in Caring for Kids?
Well, there are a couple of different ways. So if they are in communities where we're already serving, so we have 7 school districts in the metropolitan, and I can give you those. So we're in KCPS, we're in Center, Grandview, Hickman Mills, Kansas City, Kansas, Shawnee Mission, and Raytown. So if they are in any of those areas right now, they could go to our website at caringforkidskc.org and check us out and reach out to us. Hey, I'm interested in my church, my business, my civic organization. Because that's the other piece, is that some of our friends will be doing their missional cause through their business. Some of it is through your civic organization. So some of our friends of faith might not be a pastor. And, if they're one of the lights and they're a business owner, they can say, hey, I would like to get my business involved. I'd like to get my my organization involved. And we've had some very interesting types of organizations, pipe fitters and hair salons. So it doesn't matter. Everyone can come and we have work for you to do. But if you're not a part of one of those school districts, you could feel free to reach out to us for some guidelines on what we suggest you do while you're waiting. But if you're one of our friends who have connections to those higher ups in your organization, in your school district, and you're saying, I know my superintendent, I want to make a meeting, we're always open to getting into more school districts, being in more schools in the community. We actually just launched 6 more schools, and we have 7 slotted to launch in the spring. So we would love to grow that number, grow the the school districts that we're serving in, and if they have ideas around how that could happen in their community, they're welcome to reach out to us and send me an email directly. But yeah, we want them to absolutely still, if Caring for Kids is not there, don't make that a barrier for you. Still, your church finding ways to say, how can we help? First of all, just not coming in and telling the principal what you can do and what they shouldn't do and all those kinds of things. Because what we know and believe is that those principals absolutely have a pulse on their school. They have the best pulse, and they know what the challenges of their children and families are, and they would be the ones to guide a church or an organization into how they can help successfully partner with the school.
There's no reason to pay the dumb tax more than once, right?
No.
These learnings have been there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in learning the lessons you've learned. So don't repeat those lessons over again.
Yeah.
What's your website?
Then help.
Yeah. Right. So what's your website address, Porsche? So people can reach out to you if they want to.
It's caringforkidskc.org.
Okay, great. Very good. So a lot of times people who are listening, Porsche, they'll be praying, for you, for the organization. And because they've heard the story today, they'll have a heightened interest in that. And if they were going to pray for some kind of a breakthrough or something, what would that look like? If you were going to say, hey, this would be breakthrough kinds of territory, what should they be praying for?
I would like I would like for people to earnestly pray for our children.
Mm.
To not pray for them in a quick moment, bless children. Yes, we want to bless them, but we have some kids that are facing things that many adults would not make it through.
Yeah.
Trauma, the effects of COVID, which have only magnified what some kids were already going through.
Right.
We have children that are homeless. We don't often like to talk about that side of those round faces, those sweet round faces. We love to picture them with those backpacks on, getting on a school bus, eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But some of those kids are homeless. Some of those kids have suffered loss of parents or grandparents, and they're grieving. Some of those kids are transit, and they change schools every year. If you can imagine that, they don't ever get to set up those routes because they're changing schools every year because mom and dad are just trying to do better. They're trying to get better for their kids, and it causes them or maybe a loss of job. So we want them to have pure heart. We want them to know Christ. We want them to know love that is unconditional, and to get the joy of being kids. When you get home, you throw that backpack off, you get to run outside and play. Some of our kids are not able to experience that because they have the cares of the world on their back, and they have to be in places where adults should be. And so we want to pray for their resilience, but we don't want to take it for granted.
Wow. That's a heavy thought, a sober thought, but also so important. Yeah. Thank you, Porsche, for sharing that.
You shared a lot tonight or today. And is there anything that we haven't covered that you really wanted to share that you would like our viewers to know or to hear?
I would just implore everybody to think of every kid as their baby. When you hear the bus coming down the street, open the door, make sure everybody gets off the bus safely. Maybe you be the person that stands at the bus stop in the mornings to make sure kids get on safely. We have kids that are missing. Parents that are looking for babies. And that means that as a community, we're not watching. We're not waiting. We're not waiting in anticipation to get those graduation invitations and all those things and those birthday, we love it when they turn 1, but we have to be excited for when they turn 12. And they're not they smell kind of bad, and they're middle schoolers, so they kind of have a bad attitude. But we have to remember that they're our babies. They're our babies. And they're special. They're special to us. And we have to remember that as a community. Too often we go in through the garage and the front door never gets open, and we never know those neighbors. But you might be the house that somebody has to go to because they lost their key. You might be the house someone has to go to because mom's not home. But you have to find yourself friendly, and you have to be a neighbor. Because when we're talking about our neighborhoods and, praying and caring and all those things, that only happens through relationship.
Yep.
You don't know how to pray for them if you don't know their name.
Mm-hmm.
So that happens through relationship. But if I could say anything that I haven't said before, they're our babies. Oh. And so even when they're 17, they're our babies, and we should treat them that way. We should treat them as such.
That's so powerful, Portia. And what you're saying, I think, is memorable. We can remember that. Our listeners can certainly remember that. And you're making so many of the points I'm usually making when I'm talking about being a neighbor. And you're making exactly the same points. Thank you so much. This has really been a wonderful time, Portia. You've poured into us, you've poured into the listeners, and they can see your heart and they can feel the passion that you have. And beyond that, you have a really good system that they can plug into. So thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much for having me and having us as a network, Caring for Kids, and allowing us to share what we get to do in our corner of the world, and how we get to glorify God and support our community.
That's wonderful. So people who are listening today, you may be listening on iTunes, or you might be on Google Play or one of the other different networks, platforms that we use. I'd encourage you to subscribe so that when a new podcast comes out, that you see the Love KC's Bless podcast. And then for this one, could you think of a friend and forward this podcast to a friend? Maybe you go to Love KC's Facebook page and share it. It's easy to share on Messenger. All you do is slide down where it says share and slide down to Messenger, and you can click and share the link, and you could just send it right to their Facebook account, or you can share it on your page. Maybe you want to not just listen yourself, but take this and share it on your page so other people can hear. These are ways that you can take this story further. And then I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say we need to pray, because Portia, what you shared about the breakthrough time and about thinking of these children as our children is such a matter of prayer that each one of us ought to take with us regularly. I'm going to go ahead and close in prayer for today, but I'm not going to do justice to the depth of what you talked about. That's something we need to pray more continually over. And as we do, we can trust the Spirit to intercede for us, as we pray as well. But let me offer a prayer for now. Lord, I thank you so much for what you're doing through Portia and her team at Caring for Kids. I thank you for the ones who labored, like Gary Smits at the beginning, Nancy Mitchell, Phil Kryling, and others who have come alongside Portia and her team, and for Terry and Cheryl and others. Lord, I just pray that you'll be their strength. Encourage them. Lord, I ask that you'll give them ideas they haven't even had before. Father, we pray for our kids. This, what Portia shared, is so meaningful. They are dealing with adult type situations in their kid bodies, and they don't have a frame of reference for so many of the things that they're having to deal with. And COVID is just one of those things. But COVID has definitely turned up the volume of dissonance inside of our culture. And I pray, God, for kids who are behind their grade level because of COVID, and kids who have lost relatives to COVID, and kids who have parents who might have lost a job because of COVID. There's so many different things, Lord. None of these are surprises to you, but we're interceding, Lord. We're standing before you and pleading like the importunate widow who kept knocking on the door of the judge and saying, Lord, please help our kids. Lord, please help our teachers, help our principals, help the administrators in the schools. Lord, they're right on the front line. And I pray that you'll be their strength and you'll be their energy. I pray for more churches, like Portia asked, Lord. She asked for more churches to participate, for more businesses. We pray for our lights, Lord, the 3,200 lights in Kansas City, that they would take the care part seriously and join with Caring for Kids, or if they're not in that school, learn from Caring for Kids so they can offer even mentoring or even reading at their local elementary grade school. Lord, thank you for broadening our horizons today. And I pray for a corresponding surge of strength and encouragement into Portia's life and the others on the Caring for Kids staff. And we ask this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Portia, thank you so much for making time to be here today. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great.
To all of our listeners, yes, God bless you, and get involved.
Thank you for listening from the folks at Love KC. We hope you enjoyed our program. See you next time.